Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Wrath of the Righteous with me, Bring It On. Let's go talk to our advisors and Seilkind. Captain Odan should be over here. Captain Odan gives you a polite nod. What can I do for you, Commander? Captain, what's your role in my army? I'm responsible for drills, organizing exercises, and briefing the officers on the strategies you approve. Furthermore, I have the honor of serving as the chair of your military council. Remind me about the responsibilities of the military council. Military council determines the strategy for our troops, enacts army reforms, approves new equipment standards, and makes decisions on all issues regarding military action on the front lines. You've had encounters with Cremzida before, haven't you? Only in the halls of my mind. Back when I was a young lieutenant, dreaming of the title of Crusade Commander, and who among us hasn't dreamed of being in your shoes, Commander? At least for a little while. I knew I would one day meet him on the battlefield. I'm sure there are more powerful demons in the world wound, but in this war, where entire armies fight for victory rather than individual warriors, he is Mendev's greatest enemy. I had studied countless reports on battles against him, played out countless of his historic battles in my head, trying to spot his mistakes. I did spot a few, or so I hoped, but never had the chance to put it to the test. I moved up in rank, knowing that the day when we would come face to face was drawing ever closer. The most important day of my life. I could feel that it was very close. Tell me about your military career. My family has lived in Mendev for generations. Simple but prosperous folk. Even as a child, I was interested in the study of warfare, and I always knew I'd end up joining the ranks of professional soldiers. After serving for 3 years as a cadet in the capital, I went to Lastwall, where I graduated from the Crusader War College with honors. Then, I returned to Mendev. For 25 years, I fought many battles as part of various border units. As a result of my service, I was distinguished by command with a promotion to the rank of captain, and a subsequent transfer to headquarters. Captain Odan falters, and his expression darkens. He remains silent for a while, then shakes his head and continues. Now that I didn't have to do drills, I had the time to focus on studying tactics and strategy. My fellow officers called my desk the archive, because it was always covered with manuscripts and military treatises. Alas, I never did become a commander, even though it was my childhood dream. But I was able to become a competent enough officer to be serving directly under your authority. I hope you'll find my knowledge useful. I get the feeling you've had your share of pain on the front lines. Captain Odan presses his lips together. No more than the soldiers from my squad. My last battle was at Villareth Ford's outpost, north of Canabris. The demons, they brought flames down upon us. I'd never seen anything like it. Walls of fire spewing out fireballs. 300 soldiers turned into screaming, burning meat. And believe it or not, in the light of that cursed flame, the battlefield was dark as a cave. The smoke was so thick, you couldn't see any further away than your own hand. We held that day, but the price was high. I paid mine as well. It took a miracle for the clerics to pull me out of my melted armor, and it took me 4 years before I could remain calm near fire. Any fire, even candlelight. I thought they'd write me off as psychologically broken, but instead, I was promoted. Apparently in that inferno, we managed to deflect a terrible blow and protect Canabris from the attack of a superior force. Apparently we were heroes, as unyielding as rock. I didn't know that at the time. We were just fighting, burning and fighting. I have to go. I'm always at your service, Commander. Bye, Captain Odan. And Dorgelinda. Same can't be said for Lady Konomi, nor Captain Harmon. Commander, middle-aged dwarf salutes you casually. Her face is disfigured by huge scarred claw marks. One of her eyes is covered by a black patch, but the other is looking at you sternly and intently. Dorgelinda Stranglehold, at your service. What's your role in my army? I'm the Chief Quartermaster in charge of material support. I make sure our brave soldiers are armed, armored, and fed when they go into battle. Or at least 2 out of the 3 are. You know how it goes. Dorgelinda chuckles. I'm also the head of the Logistics Council. If we're missing something, I'll report it to you right away. What does the Logistics Council do? It supplies. What else? As you lead your troops in those legendary battles, we solve various non-heroic issues like what our fighters are going to eat tomorrow, how to fix a chainmail shortage, and how to get our hands on a shipment of helmets we purchased that stuck somewhere in Ustalov. Those are the headaches we deal with. Sometimes, however, we're faced with something we can't just hash out without you. That's when we have to assemble the council and ask for your decision. But Torag willing, that won't happen too often. We've got your supplies covered, so you go ahead and be heroic to your heart's content. What became of the quartermaster who was taking care of the supplies during the march on Dresden? Nothing really. Got a medal for his heroism during the assault on Dresden, and now he's right back where he was, keeping up the good work. It's just that a fortress like Dresden is a little out of his league. When you need to supply the camp during a march, he's your man. But it takes a different set of skills to be a chief quartermaster. What's with that nickname, Stranglehold? Yeah, I wouldn't have minded having a choice in your advisors, kind of like in Kingmaker, and maybe make Wilser the quartermaster for Dresden. Our resident jokesters came up with it when my hand went numb from the wound. She holds up her crooked fingers, withered to the bone. After that, up the front lines for the supply service. And then I showed every wisecracker that one hand is all you need to keep your supplies in order. My grip really is a stranglehold, you see. All those thieving quartermasters who go out of their way to sell some ammunition on the sly. Scatterbrain officers who lose half a caravan in every skirmish. Civilian milksops who always have a sob story to explain why they can't give anything to the army. Y'all learned well why people call Old Dorgelinda Stranglehold. We have spells available that could restore your hand. Spend it on some poor sap whose legs got ripped off in the first battle. Thank you for your concern, Commander. But while we're at war, resources should be sent where they're needed. I'm handling the logistics just fine with one hand. I have to go. Good luck on the front lines. We've always got your back. That's our job.
I'm off! I do what I must.
Let's get rip off this band-aid real quick.
I'm gone.
Lady Konomi is engrossed in reading some kind of letter. Upon noticing you, she frowns nervously for a moment, but then greets you with a graceful bow. Commander, how may I be of service to you? What is your role in my army? Oh, don't get me wrong, Commander. I'm not your soldier. I serve Her Majesty Queen Galfrey. She sent me to head the Diplomatic Council of the Crusade and consult with you on particularly sensitive matters. What's the Diplomatic Council, and why do I need it? To solve matters of politics, of course. The Crusade is more than just battles and sieges. It is the largest military project in all of Avestan, funded by the treasuries of more than a dozen major powers. And each one of those powers, in addition to seeking victory over the demons, also pursues its own goals. The Diplomatic Council will manage this tangle of political interests, and prevent the Crusade from losing the favor of influential benefactors. And while we're at it, ensure that Nerosian remains satisfied with the state of affairs. After all, for the last 100 years, the entirety of Mendevian politics has revolved around the Crusades in some shape or form. That is why the capital has sent me here, to observe, offer suggestions, keep the diplomatic situation under control. Tell me more about the Royal Council. What is it? The Royal Council, operating under Her Majesty, is the highest governing body in Mendev. It comprises her most able and trusted servants. It is responsible for day-to-day matters of state. They're the hands and the voice of the Queen. The council has gathered people from all walks of life. Some of them are nobles, but many more are citizens of humble origins who earn their positions through their wit. Many are rich, but a fair number of them are of more humble means. Some are pious and pure of heart like Lord Inquisitor Kisori and Captain Jasper of the Crusader Heralds. Others are more flexible and ambitious, but each of them faithfully serves Mendev's cause. So we've read both of those before, with option 2 and 3. Tell me about yourself, Lady Konomi. We've also read this one. But we've read the other two, I will just keep reading it. Lady Konomi lowers her eyes in a show of modesty. It's unbecoming of a diplomat to talk about themselves at length, but how am I to refuse you? I come from Tianjia, from the noble Kitsune. Like any Kitsune, I have always been curious to a fault, and my adventures brought me to Abistan. And here in your lands, I met my first and true love, politics. I've served as a diplomat in the courts of 6 different sovereigns, but working for Her Majesty turned out to be the most interesting of all. Such riveting webs of intrigues and interest are spun around the Crusade and the World Wound. What are you reading? That is a state secret, but for you, I can offer a hint. Every single day, I receive dozens of classified diplomatic missives from all countries supporting the Crusade. I have a question regarding diplomacy. I'm happy to oblige. I'm always willing to talk about my craft. What's the current situation in Mendev? Things aren't terrible, for a nation that has been at war with a demonic invasion force for a century. The people are wary of taxes, the army continues to pay tributes in blood, and many noble families are dying out, which breeds inheritance disputes. However, the crown stands strong, as authority remains high. The nobles are ready to follow Her Majesty's orders, and the Royal Council, comprising the closest and most trusted servants of the Queen, governs the nation sensibly and astutely. Why are you so fascinated by politics? Is this something all Kitsune share? Not at all. However, we Kitsune are predators, and our hunting spirit is strong. But, unfortunately, chasing rabbits in the fields is rather boring, vulgar, and unfashionable. Politics is a hunt of a much more dignified sort, refined and captivating. Whenever I pick up the quill to write a letter of protest, I feel like I'm ready to go for my prey's throat. So invigorating. I'm not comfortable with the Royal Council imposing its will on me. Please don't paint the situation in such a bleak light, Commander. The Royal Council does not seek to hinder you. It merely suggests the most sensible course of action. The members of the Royal Council have been serving Her Majesty for many years, and have proven their wisdom. While your attention is focused on the war, they think about Mendev's future. Listen to their words, and they'll know there will be peace between you. You don't look like a soldier, and you're different from my other advisors. You're right, I'm not a soldier. Warfare has always been too bloody for my tastes. I prefer the intricate tapestries of politics, proposals with double and triple agendas, clashes of ideologies, and long-term strategizing. But they say that war is merely a continuation of politics, which is why my duties have brought me to your headquarters. I have no more questions. It has been a pleasure to satisfy your curiosity, Commander. Kitsune are a rare sight in Mendev. Lady Konomi shrugs. I'm a child of a passionate and curious people. We live everywhere. You're just not always aware of our existence. You're not the first to have taken an interest in my race. Your companion Nenio has already interrogated me. A most amusing individual. Truly, we Kitsune are incapable of normalcy. We find our passion and surrender to it entirely, mind and soul. Although in Nenio's case, I fear that the mind was lost, along with common sense. I have to go. Good day to you. Alright, Seilkind should be about right here, and then Harbinen's up here.
My skills are absolute.
Seilkind bows respectfully and says amiably, I was hoping you'd honor me with a visit. I know you're extremely busy, but I've been eager to meet the person who managed to restore Galarian control over part of Sarkorian lands for the first time in decades. This is incredibly symbolic. Remind me who you are again. I'm Captain Seilkind, the commanding officer of a mercenary band called the Blackstone Company. We're the vanguard of an Andoran group of sellswords whose services were paid for by Queen Galfrey. Our advanced forces were sent to Dresden, and I'm happy that I was chosen to lead them. Tell me about your mercenary company. Blackstone Company is proud to be recognized as one of the finest Andoran mercenary regiments. We're not a bunch of unscrupulous sellswords looking to oppress the innocent and serve the tyrants of the world. No. We're adventurers eager to get involved in a dangerous enterprise and leave it with pockets full of gold. And a clear conscience. Which is why we held a vote among our units. We're glad to accept Queen Galfrey's invitation to join the Crusade, though some of our commanders, did voice their displeasure with the sum she offered. But like I said, we Andorans are free people who cannot be pushed around, and who cannot be bought. Only convinced. You must have stories to tell. Let's put it this way. If I father any children, I'll have something to tell them. I wasn't even 20 when I joined the Blackstone Company. I've seen my share of scuffles. But my goal in every conflict remains the same. To defend the common folk. Not all sellswords treat civilians well, you know. But my soldiers have never disgraced themselves with dishonorable conduct. Once I even joined an expedition that reached the crown of the world. I swear, I've never neglected such crucial strategic necessities as supplying the troops with warm undergarments after that. Despite not always agreeing with my superiors in the company, I earned my reputation as a competent officer. I always relied on thought-out logistics, exercised caution, and strictly followed tactical doctrine. You look like a soldier to the core. You must have been serving all your life. Seilkind chuckles. Who knows what the future holds for me? In my spare time, I study history and applied anthropology. I'm just an amateur, of course, but sometimes I think I could be a decent lecturer. Almost as good as I am an adventurer. Why, I might even find a way to combine the two callings. I was completely smitten when I discovered Sarkorian culture. They were such an interesting people. Just freedom-loving, tenacious. Sure, the traditions were not entirely flawless, but nevertheless, the demise was a great loss for all of Avestan. What good fortune that you have in your party, probably the last surviving Sarkorian, and a chief at that. I've not yet had the opportunity to speak with Master Olesk in person, but I hope to remedy that. I'd love to ask him about the Sarkoris he knew. I have some questions about your fascination with Sarkoris. I understand that few people are interested in this subject, even though their anthropologists unjustly neglect it. But I intend to shed light on this chapter of history. If anything remains of Sarkoris, I will find it, no matter how small its shards may be. What fascinates you so much about Sarkoris? A sparkle of passion gleams in Seilkind's eyes. They were an amazing people. We're used to treating Sarkoris like a barbaric northern land, inhabited by brutish and primitive people who condemn magic and dance to the shaman's tune. But this is our snobbery speaking. In fact, life in Sarkoris was much more nuanced and sophisticated. Behind the false front we erected, there was hiding a nation of skilled craftsmen, wise stargazers, enlightened priests, and clear-thinking chieftains. They're anything but bloodthirsty and brutish. They managed to create a nation without shackling themselves with the bonds of monarchy or thrusting power into the hands of wealthy magnates. They were cultured, spiritual, curious, and they despised injustice. Sure, they had their flaws, but there are many nations in the world where power generally belongs to the people. Over the last few years, I've seen acts of horror even in Andoran, not to mention in other countries. In Sarkoris, power is given to those who earn their authority. I feel that if it weren't for the World Wound disaster, they've given Avestan and the entirety of Galarian a distinct vision of the future, where everyone is free and equal. The fall of Sarkoris is a tragedy, and therefore we must expend every effort to collect the pieces of that picture. How do you plan to look for the remnants of Sarkorian culture? I'm sending scout patrols to places where, if my assumptions are correct, there may still be Sarkorian refuges hidden in plain sight. I don't believe a whole country can perish without a trace. Among the locations I'm interested in are Pelorus Fall, mining town of Zafsville to the west of here, the city of Undarin, Bloodwood Settlement, and many others. The captain's expression grows stern. Of course, some of the company commanders think I divert too many resources to such expeditions, but I couldn't care less. If there are any survivors, we will save them. But plenty of refugees from Sarkoris found a home in other lands. Their culture lives on. Well, that's open to interpretation. When Sarkorian refugees found themselves in foreign lands and surrounded by strangers, they inevitably began to adopt the culture of their hosts. Have you met Sarkorians from Numeria? By now they are more Numerian than not, and for that I blame the people in power. It was in their interest to erase the cultural identity of the arriving Sarkorians, to forge them into new subjects who had forgotten their homeland. Besides, Sarkoris was never a monolithic entity. It was an alliance of countless tribes, each carried different cultural baggage, sometimes even contradicting one another. To piece together an understanding of the customs of Sarkoris as a whole, you can't rely only on the knowledge of the surviving tribes. Have you ever heard of a village called Wintersun? Actually, that's why I'm here. As soon as I learned you discovered a settlement where the surviving Sarkorians still live, I volunteered to take command of the company Vanguard. It's a fantastic, priceless anthropological discovery, and I hope the devastated lands of former Sarkoris still have little nooks like Wintersun. I have no more questions. Feel free to return with more if they appear. What can you tell me about the Sarkorian culture? Or about Sarkorian culture, there's no "the" there. I studied their traditions, their customs, and their rulers. I know what they loved, and I know what they feared. Did they really persecute mystic practitioners in Sarkoris? It'd be historically inaccurate to deny it or to excuse these acts. Yes, Sarkorian society was not perfect. They reacted to mystical power with fear and prejudice. But this particular conflict was deeply rooted in politics. In many countries, mystic practitioners hold vast power due to their special abilities. It's these people who often become oppressors, tyrants, and despots. Yes, the treatment of mystics in Sarkoris was cruel and unjust, but the people united in struggles against a minority that often encroached upon their interests in a very hostile manner. I'm repulsed by the idea of throwing innocent people into prisons, but I'm not naive. Those political realities can't simply be dismissed or ignored. They need to be understood and addressed, because these desperate actions also have a certain logic at their core. Tell me what you find the most exciting about Sarkorian history. Have you ever heard of God Callers? Are they an amazing and fascinating cultural phenomenon? The Sarkorians are a highly spiritual people, revere not only the deities we know, but also a plethora of lesser entities. Tribe gods, clan gods, settlement gods, and sometimes even patrons of individual families. God Callers could contact these beings and become their, how shall I translate it, companions. They formed a very strong bond. In a way, gods were their spiritual siblings. We can imagine just how different their society was from ours. Union with the divine was a more regular occurrence, and the higher powers intervened in the affairs of mortals more often. Who ruled Sarkoris? That's an interesting question. Many people compare Sarkoris to modern kingdoms, since they did have chieftains endowed with absolute power. Still, the nation did not have a single leader. The Council of Chiefs made their decisions together. In some places, the post of chieftain was hereditary, but as far as I know, not everywhere. Besides, their politics were influenced by god callers and priests who relayed the wishes and expectations of higher powers to common folk, so chieftains could not ignore them. I would compare Sarkoris to modern Andoran rather than Mendev. It was a true nation, a people firmly aware of their unity and shared purpose. You've satisfied my curiosity. Thank you for the pleasure of this conversation. Let me know if you need help with your search. And of course, he immediately takes me up on it. I was just being polite, man. Actually, I could use some help. A group of my scouts has gone missing. Presumably they got lost. They're competent and reliable soldiers that I trained personally. Their orders were to carefully and stealthily retreat if they discovered anything dangerous. If you find my men, please give them directions to Dresden. I'd be extremely grateful. Please let me mark the area that they were headed to on your map. I have to go. The captain nods politely. I see. Duty calls. Alright, let's talk to this dweeb. Commander. An aged, dark-skinned Garundi man with sharp features addresses you with a confident salute. Instead of hair, his head is covered in sparkling crystals, clearly identifying him as an Oread. Captain Harmondon, at your service. What are your responsibilities in my army? Enlisting, screening, and training recruits. Furthermore, by Her Majesty's order, I was appointed as the chair of your staff council. As he mentions Galfrey, his voice assumes a tone of deference and reserved pride. Tell me, Captain, what does the staff council do? In short, we make sure that whenever orders are given, they're executed properly. Our job is to keep the soldiers' morale high, so they always follow their officers' commands without question. As for the officers themselves, we look out for any unseemly or incompetent types who subvert the troops' trust. It's a little ironic coming from him. I report any staff-related issues to you, suggest solutions, and ensure that your directives are followed. Tell me about yourself. Affirmative. I hail from Osirian. My parents were caravanners, sometimes it's carabiniers. They knew the entire length and breadth of the desert, fearing no heat, thirst, or wind. They told me that I was born after they miraculously survived a fierce sandstorm, one that raged for 5 days straight, blocking the sun out of the sky. We call sandstorms like those Harmondons. I don't know if they made me the way I am, but I do know that they named me after that sandstorm. I didn't follow my parents' footsteps. In truth, I feel uneasy in the desert. Among the dunes, I feel like I'm trudging through a swamp. Instead, I enlisted in the army of His Majesty Kemet I. He just ascended the throne after throwing off the Kelishite yoke and returning Osirian to its independence. I soldiered in the infantry for exactly 100 years. I saw and shed no shortage of blood, both mine and that of others. In other words, I performed my duty to my homeland. But the older I got, the stronger a nagging voice in my heart grew. It kept telling me that I was not fighting for what I should have been. Homeland or not, there was a war in this world that meant more than all the others. I went to a temple of Ra, made my sacrifice and prayed. O King of the Heavens, set me on my path. That same night, I had a dream. I was a sandstorm flying above endless lands, as if I had falcon's wings. Over the desert, the sea, and the forests, right toward the world wound. My god had shown me the path. That was clear as day. I resigned and left for faraway Mendev. For 24 years, I served Her Majesty Galfrey, had a good taste of the abyss, and the whole disaster in Canabras occurred and the Queen called for a new crusade. And here I am, fighting under your command. I have to go. I served the 5th Crusade.
Follow if you dare.
You served something all right.
It's time to act!
Here we go. Strange guests.
I do what I must!
a good ways away. Also, that's really backtracking too. Unexpectedly, the enemy's leader's tent turns out to be a ship's shape and tidy. Don't know why that threw me off. Behind glass, an Arcanimerium magical college diploma hangs on a post. In the chest, there's a ceremonial graduation robe and several magical inventions and patents. The brainchildren of the late cultist leader. One can only speculate on the tragedies that made him lead such a wretched existence. An eye for an eye. When this +3 composite shortbow lands a hit on an enemy suffers an additional 1d12 piercing damage. Just a flat damage boost for old land here. Alright, I'm gonna call it here, and next time we will head towards... Actually, let me, see something real quick. Yeah, let's go and build this. Right there for now. So we need that to teleport back. I didn't think that we did. I don't remember building that... in Dresden before. Well, no, I've built it in Dresden. But either way, now we can teleport back to Dresden once we venture out. And once you upgrade the outpost to bastions or forts, I think it's to forts, you can put teleportation circles in the outpost as well. Alright, well I'm going to call it here, and next time... we'll head back this way towards Morbid Ridge. And then since we'll be on this side, well, we'll have to teleport back and probably rest up anyway. Then we'll try to knock out Ulbrich's quest after that. And try and clear out everything to the east. And then we can head south towards the Shrine of Sacrilege, Winter Sun, and the like. Green Gates is a little further away, isn't it? That was to the south as well. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Just not highlighted like the rest of them are. Alright, well, either way, I'm going to call it here for now. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.